What parenting trick can actually fuck up a child? Pretending to ring the police when you've done something bad. Giving kids the silent treatment when they're in trouble honestly teaches them to shut down when things get difficult rather than talk things through. I am personally unlearning that behavior to this day because of how often my mom did that. Putting down your child to motivate them. My parents never gave me positive reinforcement. They'd be quick to jump all over my mistakes, and they even told me that I was faking my grades when I got the straight A's they wanted. It didn't do anything except sow the seeds of self-doubt that I still have to this day. Reading diaries or journals. It's a huge violation of trust and will cause kids to bottle emotions up instead of expression through creativity. If you think something is wrong or that they are in a bad situation, choose to sit and talk with them in earnest. I think this is obvious, but apparently not to a handful of parents I've met. Snooping through your children's stuff and making it everybody's business to know what you find. Bonus points for being encouraging of your other children to invade their privacy as well. This happened to me when I was in foster care. I was already fucked up and this took away few of my only coping mechanisms. I haven't seen any comments yet about overloading your kid's schedule with extracurricular activities. Growing up, I had something going on every day of the week: sports, scouts, music, church groups, etc. There was rarely downtime at any point in my childhood because my parents wanted me and my sister to not be addicted to TV and video games. Once I left for college, I literally only went to class and then went home to enjoy myself and relax. I didn't pick up any jobs or join any clubs, ironically when it was the most important time to do all of that. Adding to the point, if your child is not enjoying or not excelling an extracurricular activity, do not force them to keep doing it. You're wasting their time and your money. Find out what they're actually interested in and try to find a club or class for them to take relevant to that skill. Let them explore it, and then let them decide how far they want to continue with it. My mom would always tell me right as I was heading out the door for school that I was in trouble and we needed to talk when I got home. She would never give any clue to what it was but would let me know I was in some shit. I'd spend the entire day wondering what I did wrong and thinking I was a bad kid. 9 out of 10 times it had to do with my grades. School was a huge struggle for me. When I was a teenager, my dad would always put down my artwork, even if everyone else thought it was amazing. One day, I started crying about how overly critical he was and his response was, "I am only being like this so you will get better." Now, this fucked me up because my work was probably good to him and he could have been faking his criticism. His statement was actually the straw that broke the camel's back. He still doesn't know that he is the reason why I stopped drawing. No matter what I'd done, no matter how good everyone else said my work was, he shrugged his shoulder and said it could be better. Don't do this with your kids. Seriously, you are not helping. His method was backwards. Encourage your kids to continue with hobbies they are good at. It's okay to recognize when your kid doesn't suit a particular hobby. Help them focus their energy on what they are good at. Still I'm good at art. I get paid for commission work every few months or so. Putting down your child's strong points only makes them insecure and weaker. He did nothing for my confidence. Nothing. My sister is now really good at drawing and he will sometimes ask me, "Are you jealous she is better than you?" Fuck you, Dad. Scare tactics. My mom was always telling me horrible stories to scare me not to do things. Like, yes, I get it. I won't play by the train tracks or the canal, but it seemed like everything I wanted to do had a scary story to go with it. Even when I was going to college and trying to decide on a career. Oh, you don't want to do that because so-and-so did that and are now homeless, divorced, depressed, etc. cleaning your room as a punishment or something to hold over your kid if they want to do something fun. This will give your kid the impression cleaning the room is a bad thing. Treat it as something you both can do together. Encourage them to do it because they want to. I've decided that I will always help my kid clean his room solely to achieve the goal of a clean room. That's it. Forcing kids to share everything with everyone, even a kid they just met. Ownership is a thing. Respecting ownership is a thing. Belongings have a value. You don't see adults randomly coming up and asking to share your iPhone because they want to play Candy Crush too. And if they do, most sane people are going to say no. Thinking that you should always keep your kid happy, always trying to keep your kid happy, always giving them what they want and always distract away any negative emotions will lead to them never learning emotional regulation, acceptance of boundaries, resilience in uphill battles, admitting wrongdoing and learning from mistakes, self-esteem, communication skills, just the whole shebang, everything in moderation, even happiness. Telling them they remind them of their abusive father when they misbehave or say something you don't like. My mom used to do this all the time. You're too young to be depressed. You have nothing to be sad about. Other kids have it worse. Count your blessings. I'm sad too. Dismissing your kids' feeling literally all the time. Ahem. Stop telling your kids they won't be mad if they tell the truth. Then get mad when they do. It taught me how to make a damn good lie. Hell, you don't even know if I'm lying right now. My parents would ignore any medical issue and say that I was lazy or it was because I ate poorly. You buy the food? ? Nothing happened until at 17 I fell into a myxedema coma. Turns out I had many untreated autoimmune conditions that have caused permanent issues because they were ignored. My parents still, as an adult, gaslight me when I say I have anything wrong or still outright deny I'm chronically ill. Interrupting your kid mid-sentence to correct their speech or call them out on using slang. Filler words. My mom did this to me constantly. I grew up in the 90s when Valley girls were still big in pop culture. Along with the usage of the word like, I'd be telling a story or describing something, I'd be excited or getting into it, and I'd unconsciously let a like or an slip into my sentence. She'd immediately interrupt me and bark in this awful mocking voice, like. It was so jarring. It would completely kill whatever excitement I was feeling and I'd be deflated. She'd insist that I continue and didn't understand why I wouldn't keep talking after, and tried to explain it as I'm just trying to help you since you're not aware that you're doing it. It's good to be aware of the things we say when we're on autopilot, but we also tend to use filler words when we're excited, happy, comfortable and feeling safe, really into telling a story, etc. To burst into someone's speech mid-sentence to help them just makes them feel stupid. It made me feel like she was never actually listening to me, just waiting for an opportunity to pounce. Eventually I just stopped talking to her as much. Checking what your kids write in their diaries, or even checking everything they write online or to friends via computers, phones. I get that you want them to be safe, and that with electronics you maybe sometimes have to check, but put way more effort into talking about what your kid is doing online and being genuinely interested instead of flat-out judging and concerned, so they trust you and don't hide things if something concerning happens. This can really do long-term damage a child's trust, the trust they have in you, but also in others in general. Diaries especially are almost a sacred place where kids can work out their own thoughts and worries in private, and to read them is violating that place. Online will have a similar effect if you continuously check them, or make it feel like you are not there to help them be safe but just to limit them in a hostile way. I'm your parent. I'm always right. You need to listen and just say okay to what I tell you to do. Okay to me as a 25-year-old who always has an anxiety attack whenever I stand up for myself. My parents sprayed me with the animal's squirt bottle when I wouldn't wake up in time. Extremely demoralizing and makes me furious to this day. If you're thinking of having children, treat them like fucking human beings. Weirdly makes me feel worthless and like I'm just another animal in the house to harshly discipline when I don't do everything they want. Also, the feeling of being watched like a zoo animal comes along with those. Not so much a trick, but my parents could be very judgmental about people close to us about stuff that wasn't such a big deal. They kinda underestimated what a child understands and remembers. This resulted in me not daring to express stuff I really liked, cause I feared the same judgment. I often wonder how involved I would be in things I am passionate about if I wasn't so damn scared to be the judge the same way I heard them judge others. Having a bunch of kids and having the oldest babysit the younger ones, it's putting adult responsibilities on them at a young age, essentially destroying their chance at having a normal childhood. My neighbors did this, 5 turned out okay and have, or are planning, to have huge families as well. The oldest is still struggling to get on her feet at 40. My parents drink like normal people. They have liquor every now and then and they like wine or beer with dinner, but growing up, they raised me to think that alcohol is inherently sinful and bad. Then once I was about 15-16 they started drinking like normal people. There was no conversation or anything. They just switched from alcohol is of the devil to we're going to drink every once in a while like normal people. They did the exact same thing with tattoos. This messed me up for a couple of years because it really rocked my understanding of right, wrong. Saying things to the extreme when you don't really mean it. For example, telling your kid you will kick them out for not having good grades at 10 years old. That stressed me out, and when I got in trouble at school I had a huge breakdown in class about living on the streets if my mom found out. Having high expectations. Whilst it's good to want your child to have high grades, expecting them to get straight A's on every subject every time on a test the entire time they're in school is outrageous and ridiculous. Child-friendly meals. As a foreigner, kids in my home country simply eat what their parents eat. Of course people have dietary preferences and restrictions and picky eaters, but it's not a wealthy country like America, so overall there's simply no alternative food or a meal than whatever their parents make for themselves. We do have snacks, but they tend to be either fruit or small, salty things that really cannot fill you up. So kids tend to eat a well-rounded and very diverse full-flavored diet of vegetables, rice, fish, meat, etc. just like adults. Curries, spicy food, shellfish, etc. are not off the table. We do accommodate dislikes, but it's more like no bell peppers, and not I can only get him to pasta. When I moved to the US, I was shocked to see how many parents do the child-friendly meal thing. Not just in restaurants but also at home. Some make a separate meal available because little Timmy won't eat otherwise, and it's always pasta, pizza, nuggets, and fries. Others change the family's entire diet to suit what the kid wants to eat. The mom groups around me are always asking for kid-friendly recipes, which is at best a slightly healthier but not really version of a high-calorie comfort meal or junk food. And it's like, well yeah, if you gave me a choice about only what I want to eat and I didn't know anything about health, I'd only eat pasta, pizza, chicken nuggets, and French fries too and refuse to eat anything else. Banter. The difference between banter and bullying is a balanced power dynamic, something that'll never exist between a child and a parent. So many parents permanently fuck up their children all in good fun. Lying to them to make things seem better or to try and cover your tracks, like saying the tried and true mom tricks to get you to eat vegetables or go to sleep, or trying to be the perfect parent and never showing kids your faults. Trust issues are a thing, and although this can work, and isn't always harmful, It's always better to just be truthful. Making mistakes is a part of life. Let children do what they need to do. Allow them to grow. Guide them, yes, but lying to them is usually a bad idea. Complimenting everything they do. Children need self-esteem, but they also need to earn it. Telling them that everything they do is wonderful and special will just turn them into entitled monsters. Then, when they're 23 and out of college, they get offended when their boss tells them to shape up or ship out. Reverse psychology. My mom made it into the Southern Ivy League. Yes, it's a thing. My grandfather nagged her until she was convinced that she actually couldn't hack it and dropped out. She never went back. Stay together for the kids. Never ever stay together if you're not happy, especially if there's kids involved. They know you're unhappy, you can't help but treat them worse, because you're in a shit mood, and it gives them a skewed perspective of how normal people act in a relationship. Split up and be civil. My parents would often lie about things they said or did, and claim I was misremembering, so they could either get out of doing something for me, or just so they could avoid admitting they were wrong. Even after I realized it, I found it odd that I only ever misremembered stuff with them, not anyone else. I've still gotten stuck constantly doubting my memory. Also, using double standards to blame the child for things. For example, frequently growing up, if my parents made a joke or were sarcastic and I took it seriously, it was my fault for not realizing they were joking. But if I made a joke and they took it seriously, it was my fault for not making it more clear I was joking. Basically just making the child think they're in the wrong so that you can avoid any blame yourself. Not really a trick so much as a sentiment. What children should be seen, not heard. Great way to raise a doormat, but not a kid. Between this sentiment and being yelled at as a kid for having a stutter, it's no surprise that I can't hold a conversation to save my life. I was literally trained to be as quiet as possible to avoid getting in trouble. My dad would take us camping a lot. He didn't want us getting lost in the woods, so he would tell us the sound we heard bullfrogs was actually a water monster that will drag you underwater or deep in woods to eat you. I think most old school parenting was terrifying your kids to keep them out of danger. Making threats of punishment that are so over the top that you don't intend to follow through. Ever notice the parent of the out-of-control 5-year-old is the one constantly shouting threats? You're teaching them that consequences never arrive, and that requests to change behavior are white noise to be ignored. Yelling at your kids if they do something wrong. If your kid, say, breaks a glass, and you start to get angry, take some time to punch a pillow, squeeze a stress ball, or find some way to get your anger out that doesn't involve harming another living thing. You can scold them, just be gentle but firm when you do it. And if it's an accident, realize that it's just that, an accident. If you don't stop being naughty, that man over there will be very angry. A. Word as hell. B. Don't outsource your parenting to give your kid a neurosis. C. Highly dangerous. Might do it with the kind of stranger who'll lean over to your kid and say, "No, I won't do it." Go wild. Also, those absolutely awful parents who, when their kids are dawdling, say, "Okay, we'll leave without you." Then, either your kid says, "Cool, have fun," and then you have to demonstrate you were lying and they learn you're full of shit and that they can fuck around without consequences, or your kid suddenly hurries in a state of anxiety because your kid believes you would abandon them, which makes you a shitty parent. My parents used to punish me when my brothers did something wrong, that way I wouldn't make the same mistakes as them. Now my brothers, particularly my oldest brother, are spoiled, selfish, entitled, explosive and mean. I grew up having anxiety attacks if I got anything less than a 97% on schoolwork, because I had been punished for my brothers doing poorly and didn't want to be punished again. attempting to emotionally and mentally restraining a child because it would keep things under control. And here's my big one. Just because IT worked for you doesn't mean IT will for me. Everyone's experiences are different. There is no universal method to help children. Because I am practically the opposite of everyone in my family, it was just blow after blow to me. Fuck you, mom and dad.